Have you ever felt like your entire life was falling apart, relationships ending, jobs disappearing, and a sense of isolation creeping in? What if I told you that this isn't chaos, but a divine awakening? Many people experience these intense life changes during a spiritual awakening, and they have no idea why it's happening. The truth is, when your spirit starts to evolve, everything that no longer aligns with your higher self begins to fade away. And while this may feel painful, it is actually a sign that you are stepping into your true purpose. The Bible reminds us in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven." If you're losing people, places, and things that once felt essential, it's because your season is changing. But here's the thing, most people resist this change. They try to hold on to relationships that no longer serve them, forcing connections that have already run their course. This resistance only brings more pain. Today we are going to uncover the real reason why people walk away from your life during a spiritual awakening, and why this is actually a gift in disguise. This is a truth that few people talk about, but once you understand it, everything will start to make sense. If you've been feeling lost, isolated, or confused about why your world is shifting, stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal will change the way you see your journey forever. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Most people who watch our videos aren't subscribed, and by subscribing, you'll ensure that you never miss another powerful message that could transform your life. Now let's dive deep into the truth behind spiritual awakenings and why they force us to let go of everything we once knew. Something profound happens when someone experiences a spiritual awakening. Suddenly, everything that once felt stable begins to crumble. Jobs are lost, relationships shift, and places that once brought comfort no longer make sense. This is no coincidence. A spiritual awakening is not a minor event. It's an internal revolution that completely restructures how a person interacts with the world. Spirituality, when awakened, expands beyond mere belief. It becomes an undeniable force that realigns life with the soul's purpose. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, begins stripping away what no longer serves, making room for something greater. Many resist these changes, clinging to the familiar, but resistance only prolongs the inevitable. The Bible reminds us in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven." This means that when transformation begins, it is divinely timed. It may feel like life is falling apart, but in reality, it is falling into place. Those who have undergone a deep spiritual awakening know that the loss of a job or the abrupt ending of a relationship is not random. It is a sacred redirection. The universe is not punishing, it is guiding. These changes are not only external but deeply internal. A shift in consciousness rewires the mind, making old ways of thinking obsolete. The Bible speaks of renewal in Romans 12:2. "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This renewal can manifest as sudden bursts of clarity, an overwhelming sense of connection with the divine, or even a period of emotional turbulence as the soul sheds layers of conditioning. A true awakening does not make life easier, it makes it real, and that reality demands courage. Even physical changes may accompany this transition. Sleep patterns shift, energy levels fluctuate, and the body itself seems to recalibrate. It is as if the universe is refining every part of a person to align with this new frequency. Mystics and sages have spoken of this for centuries, describing it as a purification process, shedding the old to embrace the new. Those who embark on this journey often find themselves drawn to deeper spiritual practices, seeking understanding and guidance. Yet, despite the uncertainty, there is one truth that remains. Everything is happening for a higher purpose. What seems like loss is actually liberation. What seems like chaos is actually divine order. This is the path of transformation, and though it may be difficult, it is leading towards something far greater than what was left behind. But with every transformation comes a price, the detachment from what no longer resonates. And that is where the greatest challenge lies, the loss of connections, relationships, and people once held dear. One of the hardest parts of a spiritual awakening is realizing that not everyone will walk this path with you. People who once felt like family begin to drift away. Friendships that once seemed unbreakable suddenly feel forced. Even marriages and long-term relationships may crumble under the weight of this transformation. It's a painful reality, but it's a necessary one. The deeper one dives into spirituality, the more their energy shifts, and not everyone is meant to continue the journey alongside them. The Bible reminds us in Amos 3:3, "Can two walk together, except they be agreed?" This speaks to the fundamental truth that relationships are based on energetic alignment. When someone experiences a spiritual awakening, their energy changes. It becomes lighter, more aware, and more in tune with divine truth. But if those around them remain stagnant, conflict begins to arise. Conversations that once felt engaging now feel empty. Values that once aligned now seem worlds apart. This is not a sign of betrayal. It is simply the universe's way of making space for something greater. It is natural to feel grief during this process. Humans are wired for connection, and losing people, especially those who once played significant roles in life, can feel devastating. Even Jesus experienced this. In John 6:66, many of his followers abandoned him when his teachings became too difficult to accept. He didn't chase after them. Instead, he turned to the 12 disciples who remained and asked, "Will you also go away?" This teaches an important lesson. Not everyone is ready for deeper truth, and that's okay. Instead of holding on to relationships that no longer align, one must trust in divine timing. If someone leaves, it is not a punishment. It is a blessing in disguise. The universe never takes something away without replacing it with something better. But this requires faith. Faith that those who truly belong in your life will stay, and those who don't will be guided toward their own journey. It's not personal, it's spiritual. The loss of connections is never the end. It is a transition. What follows is a test of trust. Can one surrender to the process without clinging to the past? Can one believe that what is ahead is greater than what was left behind? The answers unfold in the next stage of the journey. The unseen energetic shifts that explain why these separations happen in the first place. Everything in the universe is energy. Every thought, emotion, and interaction carries a frequency, shaping the reality one experiences. Relationships, too, are built on energetic bonds, some strong, some fragile. When a person undergoes a spiritual awakening, their energy shifts. It rises to a new vibration, aligning with higher consciousness. But not everyone around them will vibrate at this new frequency. And when the gap becomes too wide, separation becomes inevitable. The Bible speaks of this in 2 Corinthians 6:14. "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?" This doesn't mean that one is superior to another. It means that when two people are no longer energetically compatible, their paths naturally diverge. Just as oil and water do not mix, two individuals vibrating on vastly different frequencies will struggle to maintain harmony. Some may notice that certain people start pulling away without explanation. Conversations become strained, or a once close friend suddenly grows distant. This is not accidental. It is a reflection of the unseen energetic forces at play. The more one awakens, the more their aura shifts, subtly repelling those who are not aligned. It is not an act of rejection. It is an act of spiritual recalibration. Just as a puzzle piece cannot fit where it no longer belongs, relationships that are not meant to continue will naturally fall away. This energetic separation is not a curse. It is a blessing in disguise. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying excess weight. It would slow the journey, making the climb exhausting. Spiritual growth requires lightness, and the universe, in its divine wisdom, removes the weights that no longer serve. Some of these weights come in the form of people who, though once essential, no longer fit at the next stage of the journey. But here's the challenge: can one let go without resisting? Many try to hold on to relationships that are already energetically dissolved, causing unnecessary pain. True faith is trusting that the universe knows what it is doing. Those who are meant to stay will stay. Those who are meant to leave will leave. And what awaits ahead is not loneliness, but divine alignment. The key is surrender, accepting the shifts without fear. But how does one truly embrace this surrender? That's where the next step begins. accepting the changes and moving forward without resistance. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons in spirituality, yet it is also one of the most liberating. The human mind clings to the familiar, even when it no longer serves, fearing the unknown. But true spiritual growth requires surrender, trusting that if something or someone is leaving, it is because they are no longer aligned with the journey ahead. The universe never removes without reason. It clears the path for something greater. Jesus himself demonstrated this wisdom. In Luke 9:62, he said, "No man, having put his hand to the plow and looking back, is fit for the kingdom of God." This is a powerful reminder that one cannot move forward while clinging to the past. Spiritual awakening is about stepping into a higher state of consciousness, and that requires leaving behind what no longer fits. If a relationship, a job, or even a lifestyle begins to fade, it is because the new version of oneself cannot thrive in the old conditions. Resistance only creates suffering. Many fight to hold on to friendships that have run their course, trying to force connections that no longer exist. But when something is divinely removed, forcing it back into place will only delay the inevitable. Acceptance, on the other hand, brings peace. It allows one to release the weight of what was and embrace the beauty of what is to come. This is not about indifference. It is about trust. The universe is always realigning things for the highest good. What if the people leaving are making space for soul-aligned connections? What if the job lost is a doorway to one's true purpose? What if everything seemingly falling apart is actually falling into perfect order? These are the questions that separate spiritual seekers from those who remain trapped in resistance. The awakened soul learns to say, "Not my will, but thine be done." Luke 22:42, surrendering fully to divine wisdom. When one truly accepts that nothing real is ever lost, the fear of change dissolves. Life becomes lighter, more fluid, more aligned, and instead of mourning what has passed, one begins to embrace the new. But in this process, a deep question emerges. How does one navigate the solitude that often follows? That is where the next challenge begins, learning to be alone without feeling lonely. The solitude that follows a spiritual awakening can feel like a vast, empty space. Once filled rooms now echo with silence. Social circles shrink, conversations become rare, and suddenly the world feels quieter than ever before. But this solitude is not a punishment. It is an invitation to turn inward, to rediscover one's own soul, and to deepen the connection with the divine. The loneliness is temporary. The transformation is eternal. Even Jesus experienced solitude. In Matthew 14:23 it is written, "And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone." If the Son of God needed solitude to strengthen his connection with the Father, how much more do we? Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. It is a sacred space for spiritual renewal, a time when one is stripped of distractions and given the chance to hear the whispers of the universe. Yet, many mistake solitude for loneliness. Loneliness carries an emptiness, a longing for external validation. Solitude, however, is a gift. It allows the soul to recharge, to grow, to understand itself on a deeper level. The key is to shift perspective. Instead of fearing time alone, one must embrace it as an opportunity for expansion. What if this period of isolation is actually preparation for the next phase of life? What if, in the stillness, answers begin to reveal themselves? During this time, it is essential to nurture the spirit. Engage in deep prayer, meditate, study scripture, and immerse in the mysteries of the universe. Build a new rhythm, one that fosters spiritual growth. This is a time to realign with one's true self and to learn that fulfillment comes from within, not from the presence of others. The Bible reminds us in Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." In the stillness, truth is found. But as this inner transformation takes place, a new challenge arises. With this newfound sense of self, boundaries become essential. Not everyone who left should return, and not everyone who enters should stay. The next step in the soul journey is learning to set firm spiritual boundaries, understanding who is meant to walk alongside and who is merely passing through. As one steps into higher levels of spiritual awareness, personal boundaries become not just necessary but sacred. Before awakening, Many allowed relationships, conversations, and energies into their space without discernment. But now, the soul is more sensitive, the spirit more aware, and the need for energetic protection becomes clear. Not everyone is meant to have access to this new version of oneself. The Bible emphasizes the importance of guarding one's heart. Proverbs 4:23 states, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." This means that what one allows into their life directly shapes their spiritual journey. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others. It is about protecting the energy needed to walk in alignment with divine truth. The awakened soul no longer tolerates relationships built on manipulation, negativity, or stagnation. Instead, it seeks authenticity, mutual respect, and spiritual harmony. However, setting boundaries often leads to resistance. People who once had unrestricted access may feel entitled to the same level of closeness, and when that access is denied, they may push back. This is where strength is required. Saying no is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of self-respect. Jesus himself set boundaries, often withdrawing from crowds to pray alone. Luke 5:16. He understood that without solitude and spiritual renewal, even he could not fulfill his mission. Boundaries are not just about who is allowed in, but also about how one chooses to engage with the world. The awakened soul must decide, what kind of energy will I allow into my space? What conversations will I entertain? What behaviors will I no longer accept? These questions shape the next phase of the journey. No longer is one driven by the need for external validation. Now, every interaction is guided by divine alignment. Yet even with strong boundaries, there remains a final challenge, the temptation to take separation personally. It is easy to feel hurt when people react negatively to these changes, but the truth is, their reaction is not a reflection of one's worth. It is simply a sign that their journey is different. This leads to the next great lesson, understanding that spiritual separation is not personal, but part of the universal realignment. One of the greatest struggles in a spiritual awakening is understanding that when people leave, it is not a personal attack. It is not a failure nor a punishment. It is simply the natural result of an energetic shift. As one grows spiritually, their frequency changes, and those who no longer match that vibration will drift away. This is not rejection, it is realignment. The Bible reminds us in John 15:18, "If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you." Even Jesus faced rejection because his truth was too much for some to accept. Not everyone is ready for deep transformation. Some are content with where they are, and when they sense that someone they once knew is evolving beyond their current understanding, they may react with distance, criticism, or even resentment. This is not a reflection of the awakened soul. It is a reflection of their own fear of change. It is human nature to seek approval, to want relationships to last forever. But not all connections are meant to withstand every phase of life. Just as seasons change, so do relationships. Some people are only meant to walk a short part of the journey, and when their role is fulfilled, they exit. This is not betrayal. It is divine design. The universe knows who belongs in each chapter, and as one steps into their higher self, the cast of characters naturally shifts. Holding on to past connections out of guilt or obligation only delays the blessings that are meant to come. Imagine trying to fit into old clothes that no longer fit, uncomfortable, restrictive, and unnatural. This is what happens when one forces relationships that have already served their purpose. Instead of clinging to what no longer aligns, trust in divine wisdom. God never removes without reason. If someone leaves, it is because they are no longer part of the next phase of the journey. Letting go with love is the final step in embracing this spiritual realignment. When one stops taking separation personally, a sense of peace emerges. It is not about loss. It is about evolution, and with this realization the path ahead becomes clear. It is time to fully trust the journey, knowing that what lies ahead is greater than what was left behind. A spiritual awakening is not a single event. It is an ongoing journey, a continuous unfolding of truth, purpose, and divine alignment. Each phase of transformation brings new challenges, new lessons, and new revelations. What once seemed like loss now reveals itself as liberation. What once felt like abandonment now feels like divine protection. This is the nature of spiritual evolution. To move forward, one must trust the process, even when the destination is unclear. The Bible reminds us in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." Even in moments of uncertainty, God's plan is unfolding perfectly. Every closed door, every faded relationship, every unexpected shift, it is all happening for a higher purpose. The awakened soul must learn to surrender, to walk by faith rather than sight, and to trust that the universe is always working in their favor. This path is not for the faint of heart. Growth requires sacrifice, and the journey of spirituality demands courage. It is easier to remain in the comfort of the known, to cling to the familiar, to resist the call to evolve. But those who embrace the unknown will find something far greater than they ever imagined: true connection, true peace, and a deep, unwavering relationship with the divine. The struggles are temporary, but the transformation is eternal. One of the greatest rewards of this journey is the discovery of new, soul-aligned connections. When one fully steps into their truth, the universe responds by bringing the right people into their life, people who share the same spiritual vision, who uplift and support, who walk the path of faith together. This is not loneliness, this is divine community, and it is in this sacred space that the real work begins: the expansion of consciousness, the fulfillment of purpose, the embrace of one's highest self. The awakening does not end here, it is only the beginning. The call is clear: trust the process, surrender to the divine plan, and step boldly into the unknown. What lies ahead is greater than what was left behind, and for those who walk this path with faith, the rewards are beyond measure. Now that you understand why people leave your life during a spiritual awakening, the real question is, will you trust the process or resist the change? Every shift, every loss, and every new beginning is part of a divine plan guiding you toward your highest purpose. It's not personal, it's spiritual realignment. Have you experienced this in your own journey? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful revelation. And before you go, I have another life-changing message waiting for you. Click on the next video on the screen now and continue uncovering the deeper truths of the universe. This is Celestial Truths. See you in the next one.